Welcome to Lights On, Still Scared. My name's Karen Swanston, and with my colleague Graham Meehan, we continue in this episode with time slips. So sit back, relax. Lights on are optional.
Lights on, still scared. You can't hide from what's already here. Can't run, can't breathe. Something in the dark remembers me. No matter what I do, that feeling doesn't go away. Lights on, still scared. The hauntings never fade.
I've got another one here. This one actually appeared in the 14th of October edition of the Scotsman newspaper, would you believe it? 1941.
Oh.
And it was submitted by the witness Frank S. Smythe. Now, he was a very famous mountaineer, and he wrote many, many books on his exploits in the Himalayas. He also had a lot of strange experience when he was climbing. You know, one could put it down to the altitude or weather conditions, whatever. You know, for example, the Great Grey Man, Ben McDooey, people suggest it's a Brocken spectre, which is like a natural occurring, I know what I call it, an event, but where your shadow or a shadow of a person is magnified to bigger. I don't know how it works, I'm not a scientist, but the point being is they see this giant figure, which is a reflection of your own self, a shadow in a sense, and people made the assumption that the Great Grey Man is that rather than a spooky thing. But anyway, he had lots of experiences there, and he'd walk. I mean, he didn't just mountain climb all day long. He did a lot of walking and hill, climbing, etc. across Scotland. And this actual event took place in an area which is near Loch Alsh, Glen Shiel, so west coast up the way. And it's Morvich to Loch Dhu Road. Took place on a bright sunny day, by the way, so it wasn't dark or anything like that. In the article, he basically stated that while walking along, he began to feel apprehensive, unaccountably apprehensive. And as the journey progressed, it got to the point where he kind of had to sort of stop. And it was then he noticed a group of people coming towards him, which he described as 20 or so ragged figures approaching. They were all, wearing ancient clothing. He noticed there were men, women and children. They looked exhausted. The kilts and the tartan they were wearing was ragged, the bedraggled people. And then suddenly, without warning, another group sprang out from basically the side of the path he was on, the boulders and the heather. Which he described as clansmen, and they ran towards the group and just started slaughtering them indiscriminately. I mean, hacked to pieces, literally. And he was watching all this, terrified. And after a few minutes, the whole thing just went back to absolutely nothing. And he got the hell out of Dodge, as they say, after that. But he said that was really weird because the terrifying sounds and then suddenly utter silence. Something had happened then. There was no record of anything. Obviously, nobody ever found out what it was. But, a massacre from the past. Scary stuff. Yeah. Who knows? I go walking quite often, well, when I'm away on holiday at least, and I've never experienced anything on the great outdoors, I have to say, and I know some people have. Most things I've experienced tend to be in houses or old buildings. I don't know how I'd feel about that. It's a weird one because to me, being in the outdoors is so peaceful and restful, and it's kind of the place I like to be most. I don't know if I saw something like that, it might ruin my enjoyment of outdoor picnicking and hill walking. And no, thank you. What I do find creepy about nature, I suppose, is dark and woods and on your own, and that gets the old mind going. But apart from that, I've never seen anything else, I don't think.
Driving down country roads as well, especially if it's like foggy or misty and it's coming up through the side, and that looks very eerie.
Well, this is it. Are these things maybe, tired drivers seeing misty? The old brain could come up with stuff, I suppose. Could it?
Very well be. Yes. So my next one is actually a village. It went back in time, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in Kersey, which is in Suffolk. So it's a small medieval village approximately 10 miles from west of Ipswich.
Right.
And today is regarded one of the best preserved villages in England, famous for its timber-framed cottages, narrow streets, and the ford that still runs through its centre. It sounds quite nice.
What's the name of it again?
It's called Kersey.
Kersey. Never heard of that. Never heard of that.
So, unlike many historical villages, Kersey has changed remarkably little over the centuries.
Right.
And walking through the village today, I feel like they've stepped back in time. So it's got that feeling anyway.
Yeah.
So it's a village that flourished during the Middle Ages as one of England's wealthiest wool-producing communities.
Okay.
And many of the buildings date from the 15th and 16th century because the village escaped major Victorian development. Much of its original appearance survives. So that's quite good, I suppose, really, that you've actually got that history.
Yeah, true.
So the witnesses to this particular event concerns 3 Royal Navy cadets carrying out a navigation exercise in the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
Although the precise year varies between different accounts, the broad details remains remarkably consistent. And the men had no expectations of encountering anything unusual. Mm-hmm. Their task was simply to navigate through rural Suffolk.
Mm-hmm.
So as these 3 cadets approached Kersey, something immediately felt different. The village appeared unusually quiet,
Right.
just completely silent, and one of the men later described it as though someone had turned the sound off. They said there were no birds singing, no wind, no distant traffic, no voices, which I suppose even in a little village like that, they would still hear traffic.
Yeah, true.
They said even their own steps appeared strangely muted.
Yeah.
And at first they dismissed the feeling. Then they began noticing other things. The village looked older than expected. Buildings appeared darker, the atmosphere seemed heavier, and one particular building caught their attention. And it was an old butcher's shop, and there was a large animal carcass hanging outside on a wooden canopy. And the display looked entirely authentic, yet none of the men remember seeing anything modern inside.
Right.
They didn't see any cars or electric cables or any television aerials. There was no modern signs, and one of the cadets later recalled that it felt as though they'd somewhat wandered into another century.
Right.
So as they continued walking, 2 of the cadets appeared an over sense of unease. Neither could explain why, nothing threatening. Nothing approached them, yet both felt they should leave immediately. One reportedly described the sensation as almost instinctive. The 3rd cadet, however, appeared completely unaffected. He failed to understand why the others wanted to leave so quickly. Eventually the group walked back out of the village, and when they looked back, everything appeared completely normal.
Okay.
That's weird. That's very weird. And apparently they're not the only ones to have association with the village. Over the years, visitors have reported experiencing entering unusual silent streets, seeing buildings appear different from their modern appearance, observing people dressed in old-fashioned clothes, and feeling as though the village was somehow empty despite it being daylight. So this is happening in daylight.
Yeah.
So the fact that it looks quite medieval usually, it's weird. Very weird.
Yeah.
Be an interesting place to go to, I think, to have
I think so.
have a wander
like
about.
A village that presents itself as itself 300 years before. So
I know.
that's quite a wild concept.
That's quite strange.
I know. It's interesting when you talk about the feeling that people have when they experience this, the flatness and the lack of sound, muffled sound. The one I've got now is kind of similar in a sense with that feeling. But I remember reading a story once, and it was insane. It was like a couple who'd gone, I can't remember, in France or something. They were driving about, and they went to this hotel and had a meal and everything, and they stayed overnight, and then they went away and came back to look for the hotel, which actually didn't exist or been burnt down. And people thought, my God, this is insane. Did they actually have this experience? Did they think they were having dinner there? Did they think they were sleeping there? Did they actually sleep somewhere? Or did they go back to the wrong building or try to retrace their steps and it wasn't there? It's a strange one. This one's quite new, I suppose. It's from 1995. It's from a place called Torry Battery, which is in Aberdeen, and it's got 3 guys, and I interviewed one of them at least twice, and I know he was genuine, because the first time I interviewed him, he actually completely lied and said it was nothing to do with him, it was a mate of his that had this experience. But when I went back to speak to him properly about it, he says, look, now that I know you're taking this seriously, it was me and my 2 mates. So basically, overlooking Aberdeen Bay, you've got like a golf course. The Battery is an ancient building from about 1860. It was defensive. I think it was built during Napoleonic Wars, and it was used as a parade ground during the First War. Second War, I think it was a gun mounted there. So, it's a lot of different things. At various points in its career, as it were, when there was a big homeless issue in Aberdeen, you had families staying there. And, it was rough and ready, let's face it. It was barely any water, what have you.
Yeah.
Second War, people living there too, 1930s, etc. Anyhow, these guys are going to meet their mates, and they decide to take a shortcut from Torry, which is the part of Aberdeen behind it, and they jump over the wall and they jump into the Battery, and it's a big circle essentially. And when they jump in, they all stop dead, because the first thing you notice is it was silent, like weirdly silent, and it felt subdued. So everything's dampened down, and they're looking around, and there's various people doing various things. So what you had basically was women with their arms folded and headscarves chatting, no noise, soldiers standing about with rifles, smoking fags, children playing. One wee boy, who they described as wearing +4s of Asian appearance, was running along with a hoop and a stick, and they make a hell of a noise, these girl and hoop things. So that was completely silent. So they all sort of stood and looked at each other, and then thought, let's get out here, and ran, and they got their mates. Now, it's only like a 5-minute scuttle down to the shore, and they were pulling their mates back, insisting they got, because their mates just thought they were making the whole thing up. It was all the nonsense. So they all headed back up, and nothing, not a dicky bird. And of course, their mates went for the most obvious. Well, wasn't a film being made there, and you walked into a film set? And he said, well, it's really unlikely. He says, because, one, I think those people around us would have reacted to our presence. And everybody cleared up jolly quickly, and we're headed off. And that was that. He said there wasn't even a crisp packet on the ground and not a sound to be heard. And that's what they did. And all 3 of them witnessed it. And he said, yeah. And I've carried that story with me. And I've told not that many people, because as soon as I tell it, they're all like, pull the other one, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that was a good time slip. And it ties completely in with what I've seen photograph-wise of that area. It's exactly what people would have been living there. Soldiers, women, kids. Yeah.
That's quite good. So, back to Roman soldiers again.
Oh, aye.
They seem to get around, don't they?
They do.
I wonder what it is about the Roman soldiers that
God, I'm everywhere.
feel
aren't
the
they?
need.
Everywhere.
So this encounter happened on a country lane on the outskirts of Birmingham. And the witnesses remembered it taking place shortly after 11:30 p.m. on Monday the 19th of November 2018, so not that long ago, less than 10 years ago. The 2 people were present, a passenger who later published the account and their partner who was driving. The story was not posted publicly until March 2025, more than 6 years later. Zact Road was withheld, preventing checks against Roman roads, camps and sites. So no, they've never actually said which was the exact part of the road, but there you go. So the story is that the car reached the brow of a hill on a dark winter's night, its headlights on full beam. The road dipped behind before rising again, and the leafless trees supposedly provide a clear view than in summer. The driver suddenly braked after seeing a procession approximately 100 to 200 metres ahead. An estimated 20 to 30 figures appeared to emerge from the field on the left and cross the lane. The figures looked solid and three-dimensional rather than transparent, and most appeared to be walking in pairs side by side. They seemed to be illuminated from behind by an unidentified low-level light. After crossing, the procession disappeared into the darkness in the opposite field. The couple drove forward. They reportedly found no gate or gap in the hedge where the procession had entered the road. On one of the mounted figures at the front of the group, the horse was remembered to be very large compared to a modern Shire horse. It appeared to have very bushy and furry hair on its lower legs, and the rider seemed to be carrying a long staff with something attached near the top. The object seemed to resemble a standard banner, lance or ceremonial staff, but it was seen side on, so it couldn't be identified. So they don't know whether it was Roman.
Okay.
But they assume that it was.
Yeah.
So when I read this story, I thought, Shire horse? I mean, the horses weren't around at that time. Many of the horses known for Roman period were approximately 12 to 14 hands high. But a modern Shire is 16 to 18 hands high.
Yeah.
So it would be a horse that would be out of its time anyway. Unless, of course, it was like a horse that was a one-off. The horses weren't big enough from what they described back then if it's Roman. Unless, of course, it wasn't Roman. And some of the ancient horses may have had natural fetlock hair and thick winter coats, but heavily feathered Shire horse cavalry horses were not established by the Romans. So the way that they described the horse, and perhaps I'm reading too much into it, doesn't tally, doesn't make sense. Yeah. And the fact that lit behind as well, could it be a reenactment?
Don't know.
Could it be a film? Again, could it have been a film? That would explain the light behind. But yeah, it's very weird, that one. Jury's out on that one, I think.
Yeah.
It could possibly be a time slip. But
well, I know, it's hard to say. I mean, I suppose unless you've witnessed something like that yourself, I mean, or spoke to someone maybe who's actually witnessed it. And, yeah, some sound a little fantastical sometimes.
Yeah, I suppose the fact that they actually checked to see that there was no gap from where they actually come out, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
There's that really interesting one, of course, from the Palace of Versailles, which took place on August the 10th, 1901, when there were two school teachers who were on holiday and they thought they'd walked into a scene from the French Revolution when Marie Antoinette was, being arrested and taken off for trial. And critics of the story have claimed that it was more likely to have been friends of a French poet at the time who were dressed up. So it was like they were having a party and having fun, and these two women came across it. But they always argued that the feeling was quite horrible. So they described one of the guys as an evil looking.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's Robespierre. I don't know if he was actually there with the rabble to arrest the royalists, royal family. I'm not sure. But anyway, the story never actually became public knowledge after the death of Miss Jourdan in 1924. But the jury's out on it because a lot of people claim it's, it was a publicity stunt. It was, whatever. They just made it up. So I really don't know, but they claim it really was. The feelings that went with it were weird, according to them. It wasn't natural. It's a difficult one. I mean, there's a whole book being written about it. I've never read it. I really should. It's probably got a hell of a lot more information than obviously I'm giving you today. But yeah, it's an odd one. The one that I wanted to talk about briefly, and I was thinking back. I was recollecting, and it's very difficult for me to recollect. To think what I've talked about before. And I know our very first episodes were about Aberdeen and Leatherhead, and I was thinking to myself, did I actually tell this story on the first or second episode? And you know this, folks, I can't remember. So I'm going to do it again. I hope it's good. It is a good story. It's a time slip. It's a definite time slip story. And the thing is, I know the building really well because it's Provost Skene's house. And it's a great story. And I even spoke to the people who were there, so I know it's all genuine. And it was from a visitor to Provost Skene's house. And it was built in 1545 and had loads of different owners, obviously one being Provost Skene's house. But one of the most early owners was the Edie family. And they had a painted gallery put in there. which is really beautiful. It's actually one of the best preserved in Scotland. And in the 1950s, it was rediscovered because it had been actually covered in plasterboard for centuries, and they discovered it, and I was like, wow, this is quite something. So obviously it was repaired and is now open to the public, and thankfully one of the only bits that's not been tampered with in that museum, but that's another story. It's great, and they think it was used by the 80s for Catholics to worship, or sort of secretly, if you like. But anyhow, the witness was a tourist who came in one morning really early on and had wandered up specifically to see the painted gallery, I might add. And it's got one of these latch doors, which has got a very satisfying click when you open it. And she clicked and pushed, and there was a guy standing right behind the door. So she pushed open by about 6 inches and then firmly struck someone in the back and was peering through and witnessed about 20 people all standing facing the wall, wearing what she described as old-fashioned clothing. Was pretty annoyed by this because she assumed, somebody, a sort of reenactment was taking place, and went down and grumbled to one of the attendants and said, I've come all the way to see this, and when are these guys going to be finished, blah, blah, blah. And the attendant said, well, actually, you're the first person in the building. So they went back up, and lo and behold, door creaks open, and there's nobody there except a big empty painted gallery. So it was a time slip. But the fact is, the door was actually stopped because it hurt somebody. Was quite interesting. She stood and watched it for a few seconds. They all seemed quite intent on something, whether they're at a meeting of some description or not, I don't know, but that's true.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you told that story.
Well, thank God for that.
I don't remember it.
That's good.
Oh, right. Well, this is my last one.
Okay.
And I do believe... we're going back to Hampton Court.
Yes.
So Hampton Court, we've mentioned Hampton Court before, but I will say it again. Hampton Court Palace is one of the most famous royal residences. It originally built by Cardinal Thomas Wolsey in the early 16th century and was later taken over by King Henry VIII. Yeah, so he took it off him.
Yes.
And over the centuries, it became home to many monarchs, including Henry VIII, Edward VI, Mary I, Elizabeth I, William III, and Mary II. And millions of people visit Hampton Court every year. And the palace is already famous for many of its close stories, particularly those associated with Catherine Howard and the Grey Lady. Oh, Grey Lady's back. Grey Lady gets around, doesn't she? So obviously over the more than 500 years, Hampton Court has remained occupied in one form or another by queens, courtiers, servants, guards, musicians, craftsmen. Thousands of people lived and worked within these walls. So there's no single famous Hampton Court time slip witness. Instead, accounts have accumulated over many years from visitors' guides and the staff. So several visitors are described quietly walking through the palace before noticing subtle changes. The lighting appears different, the building feels warmer, modern sounds disappear. Instead of hearing tourists, they hear voices or footsteps.
Right.
And the rustle of heavy clothing. And some witnesses report turning a corner, suddenly find themselves looking down a busy corridor. Servants carrying trays hurry past and guards stand in doorways. That's very strange, isn't it? And courtiers in elaborate Tudor dress walking through the palace, apparently engaged in everyday businesses.
Right.
Everything feels completely natural. And nobody behaves like it's an apparition. It feels as though the palace is simply alive. So the kitchens, I'm not liking the kitchens very much. I think I've mentioned that before when we've mentioned that. The corridor outside the kitchens, I don't like that. Right. Several accounts involve the famous kitchens. Visitors describe smelling food, cooking, hearing utensils, and even sensing heat from the ovens. And moments later, the kitchens appeared empty with museum displays once again. Right. So, unlike York, Hampton Court isn't associated with any single dramatic event, even though they've had plenty there. Instead, the witnesses describe ordinary daily life servants carrying out routine tasks, guards standing watching, people simply going about their work. If these were time slips, I suggest they're not for dramatic events in history. It's just like people going around their
daily stuff.
Their daily stuff.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting.
Yeah. Because usually when it's one associates these things with big dramas.
Yeah. So I mean, if you just go through your daily business, then it's weird. So that definitely feels like it's time slipping somewhat.
Yeah. Well, my last one is some battle time slips from sort of Aberdeenshire, Grampian region, Kingswells, various places around there. Now, historically, there are been a fair few conflicts there in the past, but as these stories are quite old, it's very difficult to associate which exact conflict it is. In some, like the one you mentioned earlier, the Civil War, were quite contemporary of the time, so they've been around a long time. But they are interesting. So, for example, here, this is actually an ancient, and I described the word ancient, emphasise that, report from the hill of Echt. Echt's a little village outside Aberdeen, Echt. The sound of beating drums from old fortifications were heard almost nightly in that area many years ago, and witnesses claim to have heard the sounds increase at other times and fade away as if the direction of the drummers had changed. Some state they could distinguish the type of drumming, whether they were Scottish, Irish or English. Now, I don't know how that can be, and I'm no expert in drumming, so I'm not going to make any comment on that whatsoever. But at the time, the Laird of Skene, his wife, and the Laird of Echt, while travelling near the loch of Skene, heard the sound of drums. And so 3 witnesses together. In modern world, however, some claim drumming was actually a herald of future battles. So 4 miles from Banff, at a place called Manderley, the sound was also heard by the local laird, who, assuming some sort of conflict was about to take place, gathered his valuables in panic should they be seized and buried them. In an area called Craveston, a witness named William Anderson saw an army of horsemen and infantrymen galloping. And again, near Aberdeen, early in the morning, a huge army numbering thousands were witnessed, while the soldiers being inspected by a man riding a white horse. While above the assembly, numerous flags were seen to flutter in the breeze. Strangely, there was no sound of any description, and the tableau, and I've used that word twice this time, played out in silence. The laird, watching from a distance, stayed for over 2 hours. 2 hours?
2 hours.
2 hours watching. Till eventually the company turned away and marched soundlessly away towards Aberdeen, where they vanished when they reached a place called Stockett Hill. Yeah. Isn't that bizarre?
That's very strange.
Mere months later, more than 100 witnesses returning from a nearby fair again saw a similar sight, when around 2,000 troops dressed in blue were being led by a man on a white horse. Smoke was seen to issue from guns, but there was complete silence. So the main body of witnesses then proceeded on their way, and at one point many looked back to see a straggler in the company passing unaware through the army. So he was just walking home through all these thousands of people. We didn't even see them, which is really, really bizarre. It's an odd one. So several conflicts did take place in the area, including ones during the Covenanters' War, for example, but rarely have such sights been seen by so many people at once. So people could pick holes with this and say it's a mass hallucination or whatever, but obviously hundreds saw it, apart from the one guy. For whatever reason, he didn't see it. And they've been playing on and off for centuries. Well, these reports, at least some of them, date from the early 1700s. So they've been around, but I have not come across any, what I'd say, contemporary ones. The last one's probably about 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Interesting, though.
Very interesting. The time slips are. I mean, all those stories are very, very interesting.
Yeah. So who knows? It's one of these things, I guess, they're probably a rarer commodity than a ghost story or a haunting. A haunted building may have things go on fairly frequently, but a time slip, now and then, right place, right time, or not.
Yeah, time. Do you really know what it's about?
I have no clue.
No clue.
I have no clue about anything. I just...
And on that note, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for our next lot. What are we doing next time?
Ooh, well, we've got choices. We haunted objects was a thought.
That's a thought, yes.
Haunted objects.
Yes. Ashley, whilst we're here, shall we mention the website?
Yes, please do mention the website.
Yes, so we have a brand new website. On our website, you'll see a little tab that says Future Tours. So have a look on there. See if anything fancies. Perhaps come on a little trip with me and Graham.
Mm-hmm. We're planning big things.
We're planning very big
Going to
things.
very haunted locations.
Indeed, yes.
That's the plan.
Very, very exciting.
Yeah,
and
indeed.
Looking forward to it. So, yeah, looking forward to you all listening to our next one.
Yes.
Take care.
Take care, everyone. It's going to be really spooky, this one.
Ooh.
Trust me.
Nighty night.
Night night.
I keep the hallway light on, but the shadows never fade. Every corner whispers secrets of the choices that I made. There's a tapping at the window, though the wind is standing still, and a chill runs down my spine like something moving at its will. I tell myself it's nothing, just the creaking of the floor. But every night the silence feels louder than before. Lights on, still scared. You can't hide from what's already here. Can't run, can't breathe. Something in the dark remembers me. No matter what I do, that feeling doesn't go away. Lights on, still scared. The hauntings never There's a shadow in the doorway where I swear no shadow should be, and it moves just like a memory I'm too afraid to see. Every picture on the wall seems to watch me as I pass, like they're waiting for the moment when my courage doesn't last. I whisper little prayers to keep the nightmares from my bed, but something sits beside me, breathing echoes in my head. Lights on, still scared. You can't hide from what's already here. Can't run, can't breathe. Something in the dark remembers me. No matter what I do, that feeling doesn't go away. Lights on, still scared. The hauntings never fade. Maybe it's just trauma. Maybe ghosts are made of fear. But every night I swear I feel a presence drawing near. You can say there's nothing there, but tell me if that's true. Why does something in the quiet feel like it's looking through me too? Lights on, still scared. You can't hide from what's already here. Stand still, don't breathe. Something in the dark won't let me be. scared.